Hello, welcome back to Her Shift. Here we are all about healing, shifting, thriving, and just having a goddamn better life, and who would not want that? And as today's episode title suggests, it's going to be a bit heavy. I've got two topics there. We've got PMDD and we've got narcissistic abuse. So yeah, enjoy, buckle up. This does come from my own experience, and it's something that I think there is a link between the two, especially because I believe that PMDD is a warning sign in the body that comes from self-abandonment. So what if PMDD wasn't just hormonal, but it was an effing warning light from the body saying something's not right? I've long believed that, the body keeps score. I find it hard to go back now and think I never made the connection before. And that's what it was for me. I didn't know, but my nervous system was screaming that I was in survival mode from years of narcissistic abuse, which I'm sure a lot of us know now is the ultimate mind fuckery. And no one told me how long the healing would take. I thought that I'd feel better in a year, but 2 years down the line, when I didn't start to see massive growth, I thought I was failing. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the timelines, the connection, and we're going to talk about PMDD as a trauma signal, not just a hormonal glitch. I'm going to tell you, in inverted commas, the shocking truth about how long healing can take. However, I do want to remind us that healing is possible, so please do not get discouraged from that. I want to talk about why the wrong therapy can actually make it worse, and why understanding is key. It's not just the tools, it's understanding about what's happened to us that is so important in our healing. And then I want to finish the episode off with the fact that yes, there is hope. Hope is everything, and this is not going to be doom and gloom. I hope it's just more informative than anything, with a few truth bombs thrown in. So I've had guests on here before, and we've talked about how obviously PMDD and the depression and the anxiety that comes from, and that is, in my mind, it doesn't come out of nowhere. I'm not just born with it. It's not a hormonal lottery. It's not just being a woman. When I was speaking to Natalie Ryan Hibbert, she said in her belief that it really does come from self-abandonment as a girl, as a woman. And that can come from lots of things, and it usually comes from childhood, but it's always, there's a part of us that's lost, that's stuffed down, and every month it's almost like the surface level becomes thinner and the screaming within us starts to shout louder, and that's what causes the hormonal spikes. And it's just, I believe it's our body's way of saying something is not right here. I can't remember when I finally joined the dots as to the link between narcissistic abuse and PMDD. Obviously, I believe there was trauma. I thought that PMDD was a sign of unresolved trauma, and trauma can be anything. We don't compare trauma. Trauma is trauma. It can be one isolated incident. It can be years of something. There was no better or worse. There was not like, oh, that trauma is worse than another. A trauma is trauma. And I just always thought that trapped trauma causes a response in the body. And I think that anyone who has experienced narcissism, narcissistic abuse, it is very much a hot topic. It is very much a buzzword right now. It's something I feel more confident talking about, mainly because I'm at a stage where I've started to understand and explore my own trauma more. People do seem to blanket it and blame the internet and social media, particularly TikTok. But I will say that obviously this is something that has always gone on, since the dawn of human interaction, but we just didn't have words for it. And I know that in recent years, there's been cases where now, coercive control within relationships is now actually a crime. And it's just been seen more and more and more. It's more understood. Now, there is obviously people that are using it and throwing it around and not getting the terminology correct. Now, I'm not a specialist of this. I'm not a therapist. But what I believe to be true is that so we all have a form of narcissism within us. We all have narcissistic traits, but when we call someone a narcissist, what we're actually referring to in that sense is we're saying that they're likely to have narcissistic personality disorder, which is very rarely diagnosed, as we know, because no one who we believe to be narcissistic, a narcissist, is going to go to and get help and go, I think there's something wrong with me, because they don't think there's anything wrong with them. So I'm not going to get into the stats of that. But so yes, it's a very hot topic. It is very much thrown around. But that is my trauma. And I believe that my PMDD became a portal to discovering decades of emotional abuse, manipulation, and I do have CPTSD from it as well. Yay! You'll find that me, like many other people who've experienced this type of abuse, we tend to get quite deflective and have quite a dry sense of humour. It's just a coping mechanism. We all do it, right? So if PMDD is caused by self-abandonment, and in my case, narcissistic abuse, so you're raised to abandon yourself, basically put your needs to the back, take responsibility for all other people's behaviour in your life, right? You don't know who you are because you've self-abandoned. And the only way to find out who you are and reclaim yourself and get yourself back is to wade through this shit, is to wade through what has happened to you. And this is what I believe causes the healing to take so long, because it's not something that can be fixed with a new modality, a new form of treatment. If we don't know who we are, if we don't know that we've self-abandoned, if we don't have a sense of self, we know we're not happy, we know we're not right, we know we're experiencing things. So obviously, depression, anxiety, PMDD symptoms, but if we don't know why, how can we process the trauma? So if something happens to us that has like an effect, so if we perhaps in a car accident and that became a traumatic memory that we didn't process properly, and I like to look at it as, so traumas are memories that are unprocessed, and what we've done, we've swallowed them whole. We've gone whoop, straight down, stuff it so far down. In some cases, put it in a box, wrap it in a chain and keep it so far down that we never want to think about it or hear from it again. And I believe that therapy, however it's done or whatever the modality, is we have to vomit it back up. We then have to chew it into bite-sized pieces, swallow it, digest it properly, and then get rid of it properly. So it's processed. So it now just becomes a memory that's not a trauma. And we'll probably choose never to think about that again, but we're not stuffing it down anymore. It's just free. It's gone. Okay? That's how I like to look at traumas. Now, the problem with, I don't want to say that, was when it comes to narcissistic abuse, it's on a different playing field to other trauma. And again, I will say it is not better, it is not worse, it's just very, very different. There was a really good analogy that I heard online. I love an analogy because I'm not a therapist, so I have to go with how I can imagine this thing. And said, so if we don't like to group abuse together, but if we could put all types of different abuse, whether it's physiological, emotional, sexual, physical, all these things, emotional, it's like war. It's like war on the body. And healing, and in healing we recover. We recover from war. If we look around at a situation where they bombed the hell out of the landscape, there will still be buildings standing. There will be parts left. So in a person, there will be parts left of you. If you were abused in some way, those parts will be bombed, destroyed. There will be other parts of you hopefully still standing. Okay? When it comes to narcissistic abuse, it's more, it was described as nuclear war, as in everything gets destroyed. There are no survivors apart from the cockroach narc, and saying that cockroaches would survive nuclear war because they can survive with their heads cut off. I quite like to think of narcissists as cockroaches, actually. So Yeah, it's more like nuclear war, and you don't recover from nuclear war. You have to rebuild, and rebuilding takes time. Rebuilding takes time. Nothing's left. Nothing is complete. Is gone, and you don't even have parts of you left to go. Oh, that's who I am. Oh, I know that I like that part of me. I know that part because with narcissistic abuse, every single part of you is fucked with. It's just you have no confidence in what is real. Um, it's death by a thousand cuts. It's like saying so speaking from my own experience, and I feel I can talk to you here. I feel I can be more honest. Oh, don't you just love a knock at the door when you're getting heavy about PTSD and trauma? Anyway, yeah, so I was like talking about how it's so confusing and your reality is so distorted and you know something is wrong, but you don't know how to explain it. And from my own experience, I believe it covers everything. Narcissistic abuse covers everything. And occasionally there would have been physical violence. And I'm going to say I preferred that. It was more occasional, but it did happen because when it did, it kind of was proof that I wasn't losing my mind. So, if a mark was left on me or I was hurt, it was proof that that actually did occur. And that's probably why it was so rare in my experience, because it was, a narcissist isn't going to want to leave breadcrumbs. They want you to stay in a state of confusion and denial. So it's almost, I was like, that kept me more grounded, going, no, this is real. That happened and that was not okay. And it was proof to myself that I wasn't losing my mind. But when you try to explain to people about things that have happened to you that make no sense, and also people like to go, well, okay, that's a bit odd, or I'm sure there's an explanation. And that's the problem with narcissistic abuse. There's always an explanation. So I was like, give one of the mindfuckery examples, which on its own might just seem a bit odd. But as you can imagine, if you had lots of these instances laid up over time, the actual psychological effect it would have had on me eventually. So in my situation, something similar. So going out for dinner or, lunch somewhere, and I would choose something off the menu. And this person would then go and order it. So it wouldn't be in a restaurant, it would be like in a bar where one person would go to the bar and order it. And I would always find that whatever I ordered, I wouldn't receive. Something else would come out of the kitchen. And I would question it. And at first I would go, oh, I didn't order that. And I would say that to the person bringing me the food. And this person would say to me, oh, I changed it because I thought you wanted something else. And they would often get me the more expensive option on the menu. So it was very often, if I ordered a cheese sandwich, I would be presented with a prawn sandwich. And I remember at first I would go, oh, well, thank you, that's great, but it's not what I actually wanted. And with that, I would then be told I was ungrateful and I was being embarrassing and I was being rude. And then it would be a very heavy mood and it's like I've ruined the meal. And I would feel it. I would be like, oh God, I am, at first I would feel like injustice, like going, oh, it's not what I wanted. But very soon I started to go, yeah, I am ungrateful. And then I would be presented with the option going, right, okay, I know whatever I'm going to order is going to get changed. Shall I just go for the more expensive option anyway? But if I did that, then I would be told how high maintenance I was. And so, and if I was telling somebody this in an isolated instant, they'd go, it's a bit odd. There's a bit of a quirk in that person, isn't it? Oh, I'm sure they meant well. Or I'm sure they're just trying to give you what you want. But if I could say that every day of my life was like that in some way, that sort of instant, that sort of behavior, and ultimately you'll find that most, particularly well, I can only speak from a female point of view, is that we just feel that we become completely responsible for everyone's behaviour, good or bad. So we are responsible for other people's feelings and their behaviour. So, if they present good behaviour, it's like, well, great, I've done well today. They're really, their achievements might be partly due to me. But if they get angry or they get upset or they're not having a good day, it's because of me. And what you'll find is we put that view, that's our lens, and we put that on everything we do. So whether it's our children, our friends, we take ultimate responsibility for everyone else's feelings. Okay, and that is a very common denominator in someone who has experienced narcissistic abuse. Now, again, so that is ultimate self-abandonment, isn't it? It's almost like it doesn't matter what we think or what we feel or what we're going through. We're responsible for everybody else. And it's a very female trait as well, isn't it? To want to look after everyone. So again, so we're stuffing it down, we're self-abandoning, and I think that the PMDD symptoms at that point are flashing like it really, really. But we don't know what is wrong. We know we're not happy. We hate our bodies for having PMDD, but we just, we've been gaslit, manipulated, lied to. We've got no self-worth, So I'm going to land a bit of a truth bomb here. And this does come from stats. Obviously, there are different situations. But if you are suffering from PMDD, which is likely to come from a form of self-abandonment, and if that self-abandonment is narcissistic abuse, how long do you think the healing time frame is? Because healing is possible. Well, the stats are in, and they say anything between 7 to 10 years. Now, before you run away and go, fuck that, I want to reframe it. Yes, it is shocking. It's not always the case. It could be, it could take less time. But also this, in knowing first of all, there is hope and it is possible to heal. And yes, it's going to take a really long time. You are therefore less likely to feel crap when you think you're not getting anywhere when you're failing. And also as well, that's not to say in that time frame that you can't feel joy, you can't feel happiness, that you aren't going to show growth, that you're not going to have a good life. What that time frame means is that to reset your nervous system, to rebuild after the nuclear war. That's what it's implying, okay? It's not like saying now that I don't have good days and I don't experience connection and happiness. I really do, and it is possible. What it means is, I think, to be completely reset, okay? And I'm going to throw this in. If you are suffering, if you are feeling shit anyway, time's going to pass anyway. So if things are not great and you're put off by doing healing work for X amount of years, like I said, it's going to pass anyway. So choosing healing over suffering, choosing hope over, day in, day out without movement. And from my own experience, I think I was probably 2 or 3 years in, and obviously having mixed results. And sometimes I would, be having better months, and sometimes I would feel shifts. And I know I'm shifting when I feel uncomfortable, when I'm feeling awkward, when I'm feeling not great in my own skin. A bit just different in myself, and I now lean into that and I trust it. But had I known that actually it was going to take this long, it would have helped me. I would have felt better. I wouldn't have beaten myself. I really felt like such a failure, especially when we look at the new healing techniques, EMDR, hypnotherapy, havening. You've got people like Paul McKenna in the healing space, the Speakmans. I just thought, hang on a minute, we've got all this new knowledge. Why is this taking so long? Why can't I make these huge leaps like other people can? So that brings me on to why the healing, the therapist, the advice is so important. And this is like a conclusion that I've come to. So when I'm talking about this, I'm please in any way, like, I am not a professional. This comes from my own experience, and my opinions are my own, based on my own experience, if that makes sense. So what I've come to realize is, so I've worked with a lot of therapists. I work with them on a professional level too. So obviously I have them on the podcast. I work with them on Her Shift. I'm really into psychology. And I've experienced a lot. I've experienced a lot of different types of personalities and people and different healing modalities. And I've realized two things. Nobody gets into the narcissistic or narcissism or cluster B personality side of therapy unless they've personally experienced it. Because quite frankly, why would they? It's interesting, but cluster B types, by the way, is narcissism, psychopaths, sociopaths, split personality disorder. So that side of things, you get specialists in that who have experienced it because they've taken it one step further. They want to understand it. It's probably been part of their own healing, part of their own journey. The second thing I've realized, and this is that you can have an incredible therapist who is kind and has empathy and gets you and can deal with so many issues you may have and help you in so many ways. But if they are not trauma informed when it comes to narcissism or narcissistic abuse, they aren't going to be able to understand how you need to heal. And I've had two incidences over the last couple of years, and in no way am I saying that these are not great therapists. They really, really are, and they're great at what they do. One comment was, right, you need to leave this now. You need to park it. Not you need to get over it, but you need to really move on. We need to concentrate on moving you forward. So you really need to stop thinking about this trauma. Stop going over it every day. Okay? Now, the problem with that is if you've self-abandoned and you have no sense of self, you don't have anything to move on. So you need to, unfortunately, wade through a massive pile of shit, unpick all the horrible things that have happened, make sense of it, join the dots to discover who you are, and also to understand the traumas that you're trying to fix in the first place. So it's not like like a car accident that I was in was really bad and it's a horrible memory. But I know what that was. I know what that problem is. And I know I'm scared to think about it. Okay? But if your mind has been completely fucked with due to this type of abuse, you don't even know where to start. And the only thing you can do is the very thing you don't want, which is painful healing of having to wade through it. And I had another incident recently, and it came from another therapist who's very skilled. She's really, really good. And she is a big believer in modern modalities like EMDR, which is basically it's from what I gather, it's great for phobias and isolated instant trauma memories. So it can remove a fear of flying very, very quickly. But we can understand what that fear is, and we can work backwards and understand where it came from, and then we can use these techniques to remove it. And she said to me, if I was anywhere near a narcissist or one came into my life, I would just not ever have contact with them. I would remove them from my life, and I would have EMDR, and I would have these therapies to have all these horrible memories removed. Now that does make sense. It really does. However, for someone who, again, she has not experienced it, that's just her therapist's head saying, narcissists are horrible people. Do not go near them. They're toxic, so you cut them out of your life and you have therapy and you move on. And I want to go, oh, if only it was that simple. If only it was that simple. And I remember I actually shocked her by saying, look, if all you've ever known is pain, then actually doing the work and wading through this to find out who you are and, to gain this sense of self, to reclaim yourself, I said, to me, it's not that scary. It's not that hard. I feel shit every day anyway. So actually, it just made no sense to her. It made absolutely no sense. And this was someone who I really respect, and she's a lovely person. I really do like her. But again, it's like that sort of comment is coming from someone who doesn't understand it, who doesn't expect. And also, let's not take the whole going no contact contact lightly. It's very rarely that easy to do. And for anyone to do it, dear God, it is one of the most exhaustive and scariest and therefore most courageous thing somebody can do to basically protect themselves. It is never that simple. It's not a case of just being able to pack up, move your life to a different country and never ever having contact with that person again. It is never that simple. So I think it's just what people need who have experienced narcissistic abuse is they need understanding. Excuse me, and more than anything, they need validation. Because when you've been taught that you don't know who you are, but you're this terrible person, you're very often an extension of the narcissist, and you are responsible for everyone's feelings and everyone's behaviour. You have no sense of self. To meet the right therapist, to meet someone who understands, and for them to go, sometimes for the first time, that is awful. Yes, that is abuse. That is not okay. Can you understand what this has done to you? No wonder you're feeling like this. No wonder you have PMDD. It's validation. And people that have experienced narcissism need validation more than life itself. It is one of the most relieving things, especially if in your experience you have spoken out before or you've tried to seek help, as I did, and you either get shot down, dismissed, or you get, they don't believe you. That is one of the most, that's probably a form of abuse in itself, but to not be believed. And I know that when it comes to PMDD, getting our voice across, telling people what we're feeling, what we're suffering from, trying to explain what it is, that can often feel like that too. I know that, you feel that it's just you're being over dramatic, it's just bad PMS, you're not strong, you're weak, that's why you can't cope with it. And when you get into a community, hopefully what we're building here, and for someone else to go, yeah, I've experienced that too, I totally get you, I understand where you're coming from, that feeling of I'm not alone, and that validation is so healing on its own. So in terms of the healing, I would just say be aware that it's not their fault, but you do need to work with somebody if you choose to work with somebody, or be around people that have experienced it, because you need to feel seen. So what tools and what things can you do? If any of this is resonating with you and you're thinking, okay, so you might have taken an approach to heal your PMDD, your depression, symptoms like that. You might be fully aware that you've been in a situation with a narcissist, or you've suffered narcissistic abuse, or maybe you're now thinking, that might have happened to me, like that come flew in my head, that confusion. I've always wondered why I feel this way, but I don't know. I never could put a name on it. There are, obviously, I can tell you that the tools and the things that have helped me and how I've worked on the trauma, so narcissistic abuse, and how I've worked on my PMDD, my depression. So they are two heavy things to co-align, and and it is one of those moments when you go, are you kidding me? Like, oh, did I have to have that as well? Did I have to have that? I always like when I talk about my trauma and my story, and I'm very open with my lobster and my friends about what's happened, and when I have breakthroughs, I talk to them. And sometimes it's just there's such a lot going on there. There's such a lot to the story that I just want to go, are you kidding me? What? And it's almost like I sometimes feel that from a soul point of view, whatever you believe in, if you were choosing your experience here on Earth, and I like to look at it like I'm looking at the menu, Nando's menu, and you have the different levels of sauce and heat. And I feel at some point, my my soul went, I want the super hot, extra hot source option because I want to have a really full, impactful experience. And to have that, I'm going to have to feel everything, every emotion, and have every life lesson. And there are times when I go, what were you thinking? Could you not have gone for the lemon and garlic herb? Honestly, right? Sometimes ignorance is nice. Sometimes it's nice to know what you don't want to know. But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot to deal with. There's a lot to unpack. So how I've worked it is that I occasionally have therapy. Obviously I've learnt my lesson. It's really important that I choose somebody who works in that space. And I like to view it as a form of self-care. So it's like, oh, I could have a manicure, I could have a massage, I could go to the spa, or I could have a therapy session. I like that light-hearted view of it. That really helps me to book it. So I do that. I also journal every day, as we know. I just like to get it out of my head. Just get whatever's out of my head. I know not everyone's into that. I also am a big fan of ChatGPT, as in I just work it through with there. So I go, I'm feeling this, and I type it in, and it goes, and it kind of reframes it for me. I'll ask it questions. Sometimes I just want to know more about the psychology side, because obviously I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist. So to me, knowing power, knowledge, and that's just not with narcissistic abuse, that is with PMDD as well. I want to know about the medical side of it. I want to know about what hormones do. I want to know about cyclical living. I want to know about impact that trauma has on the brain, all the different parts, the prefrontal cortex, things like that. Okay, that's just me. I like to know by knowing something, it just gives me a sense of control. And sometimes I really connect with that as well. And whenever I have a little bit of alignment in my life, I go, oh, I found a part of myself. Like, this is cool. That's who I am. I like that. I find that interesting. So it's accepting that, resetting my nervous system is going to take time. I definitely don't try to suppress anything. I try to get it out there in a really healthy way. In terms of the PMDD, I look at that as a symptom, a warning light. My new approach is to thank my body, which I know is hard to do when you're going through Hell Week. But I thank you. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for trying to set the warning light going all those years, all those months. And I'm really sorry that I ignored you and also hated you and also wished I was a man. I'm so sorry. I know you were only trying to help me to discover what was going on. I really do try to look at all parts of my lifestyle and do things that give me joy, that help me relax. I do all the things that we were told we should do that we struggle to do. So I do look at exercise. I do look at self-care. I know I did a whole episode on that, on my self-care. Really, really important. Obviously diet, supplements. It's a lot of chopping and changing, and it is what works for you. A huge thing for me has been the community side of it, and talking and feeling that I'm not alone and it's not just me. And sometimes just having a laugh and talking about some of the crazy things that I've done or that have happened to me. I like to read. I love, obviously, audiobooks, anything to do on those two topics in the non-fiction space. Really big fan. So I think what I'm saying is that there isn't one thing. It's almost like a buffet of things, of therapies, of healing, of modalities that can help. But I really do believe that the number one thing that is hope, and what supports hope is knowledge. It's knowing that you're not alone, knowing what you're going through. No wonder this has happened because of what it's done to your brain. Is leaning into your body, trying to understand it, trying to think about why it does the things it does, why it shows the warning light. And I suppose we've treated our bodies all this time like we probably treat our car engine. I've had the car engine warning light flashing for quite a few months now. I'm sorry to my lobster. He's mentioned that. And just like that, we ignore it and I'll deal with it later. We'll deal with it later. Which again, if you've self-abandoned and you feel like you're responsible for other people's feelings and you put yourself to the back of the pile, you're going to deal with yourself later, aren't you? So There are lots of tools and they are amazing, but if you don't know what happened to you or who you are or why you feel what you feel, you're just managing trauma. You're not healing it. And I'll say it again. If you feel like shit anyway, you might as well do the long haul healing work because time will pass anyway. Is that a bit dry? Yeah, sorry. That's what I think when I just get quite cynical over this. So I just want to finish with the fact that there is hope. I'll say that again. Healing is messy and complicated and it will take time. That's not to say you won't feel happiness and you won't feel better really quickly. I think once you know that's the case, you really will. Please don't be put off by scientific timelines. I really wish I'd known that sooner. I wouldn't have felt such a failure when I did, if I had. You'll start having little moments of peace, of clarity, and of power. And one day you'll wake up and you'll realise, I feel safe now. I trust myself and I don't live in survival mode. Maybe look at it as anything the body is doing, whether it's PMDD, depression, anxiety, all of that, hormonal issues in general, is just a sign that we are in survival mode. I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of women are. And I don't think you're going to burn out. I'm going to guess you probably already have. Every day that you do a little bit more healing work, because I'll go back to it again, feeling crap, let's do the work anyway. Every day you do a little bit more work, I think a little bit more about this, gain a little bit more knowledge, join a few more dots, or do something for yourself, you're shifting a little further away from the grip of survival mode. And healing isn't fast, but I've written down, but it can be fucking glorious. The years are going to pass anyway, so you might as well spend them coming home to yourself. So if you're listening to this and you've been feeling stuck or heavy or not showing any growth for a long time, perhaps showing year 1, 2, 3, perhaps this has been going on even longer, and you think, why the hell do I still feel like I'm drowning? So I'm going to tell you, you're not failing. You're just in the middle of it. You're in the middle of this messy chaos. Stay in the room. The work is messy, but I do believe it is worth every step. If this episode has resonated with you, or you're starting to see your PMDD in a whole new light and you feel less alone, healing from the trauma of PMDD is a marathon, not a sprint, and you deserve support, and you can get it. And you can get it here at Her Shift. You can get it by our community, our Facebook group, over on the socials. Please contact me anytime I'm at the Anna PR or at Her Shift. I also have a PMDD survival kit which you can download. That is a link in the show notes. It is completely free. So I hope that has not been too heavy. What am I talking about? That was really heavy. I hope that has been informative in some way. I hope that by sharing a little bit of my own experience and what my trauma actually is, that it's helped you or others in some way. As always, I'm going to say, please, please, please keep going. You are doing so well. You are stronger than you think. You are absolutely effing awesome. And as always, I'm going to say, sending all my love.